Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Dr. Matthew Jones, founder of Co-Founder Clarity, a startup executive psychologist and coach specializing in helping co-founding teams navigate the hidden psychological dynamics that make or break startups. Matthew, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I am excited to dive in. I always like to take things back. So take me on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Co-Founder Clarity. What were you doing beforehand? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
So I was in graduate school in Chicago and I was getting my doctorate in clinical psychology. I was going down this rabbit hole of completely unrelated things like non-dual awareness and writing a whole dissertation on that topic. And two of my closest friends started a company together. And so I watched them bootstrap that into a multi-million-dollar success externally. As you know, internally, it was a little bit of a different story. And so they were coming to me and venting a bit about their frustrations with one another. And because they were all friends, at a certain point, I was like, look, guys, the problem is not, internal. It's not that one of you is right and the other is wrong. The problem is interpersonal. So we need to sit down and have a group conversation. And so as we sat down and had that conversation, fast forward a few years, and they said, Matt, you not only saved our business, you saved our friendship. So I was instantly hooked. I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that the most important relationship in business, the one that sets the cultural foundation, the one that sets the floor and ceiling of the execution, nobody's working with co-founding teams. Like, wait, what? And so I realized that all the tools and frameworks I was learning over in systems, modalities, and couples therapies, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We know tools that work to help partnerships improve how they communicate, how they make decisions. And so why not apply that to the business relationship? And so that's what I started to do. And this was 6 years ago. And there are hardly any coaches doing this. Now there's 30 internationally. And so it's a very small niche, but it's continuing to grow. And I think more and more companies and investors are going to turn the page as well.
Wow, that is so interesting because I've never ever thought about that from like a psychology perspective. So maybe this is a little bit of a tricky question, but you tell me, you're the expert. So what are some common mistakes or challenges that you find that co-founding teams experience that create friction unnecessarily inside of the relationship, if that makes sense?
We say it like, yeah, we ask it one more time.
Like if I'm a co with the co-founding teams that you've worked with, what are some common mistakes that you've seen a lot of them make in terms of how they deal with each other?
Got it.
And it just, causes friction, causes problems within the relationship, subsequently within the business as well.
There's several different issues and kind of layers of them. One, I think there's a culture, at least in startups, where a lot of emphasis is placed on choosing the right co-founder. And I think some of that comes from the research, like Noam Wasserman is often cited with a statistic that says 65% of high potential startups fail due to co-founder conflict. And so people see that and they recognize, hey, this is one of the number one reasons that startups fail. And so let me put all the emphasis on finding the right co-founder. And while I think it is important and we need to do work trials and giving and receiving difficult feedback in order to really know if this is a viable partnership and learning more about one another's and deeper values and operational values, I think if we put all the emphasis on finding the right co-founder, it's actually a disempowering many co-founders who, like any other relationship, as you get in, you get deeper, stakes get higher, pressure goes up. All of our different unmet emotional needs start showing up in that partnership because sometimes you're spending more time with this person than your wife, than your partner, whatever the case may be. And so it's important to recognize that this is an attachment-based relationship, meaning you want your partner to be available, responsive, and attuned to what's going on. You want them to show up for you, even if that issue is about the business, because it's not always smooth sailing. And so where it goes wrong, I think, is not putting enough emphasis on what to do when conflict emerges, because conflict is inevitable in a startup, and especially in a high-pressure relationship like this.
Yeah.
What's more important is how you navigate it. And so that's what I spend the bulk of my time doing.
I love that. So let's dive into the business today and kind of what the offers look like. I'm assuming, please add to this, the ICP is just any co-founding teams. in terms of the ideal client, but please add to it if I'm wrong. And then from there, we can dive into the different offers and services, what it actually looks like to work with you.
Of course. So I tend to work with a wide range of co-founding teams. Often they do tend to be venture backed, usually pre-seed, seed, and Series A, Series B. They often, whenever they're working with me, there's already some degree of friction happening in the relationship. So there might be some frustration with one another. And these can be recurring arguments that aren't getting better, whether that's about product roadmap, go to market, people problems, equity, compensation, like whatever the case may be, maybe multiple different issues
Yeah.
that they're arguing about. And it is kind of industry agnostic, so kind of a broad range there. I also do work with bootstrap companies with high cash flow. I've also done ad agencies, law firms. I mean, you name it, I've kind of seen it. And so that's kind of the primary client base is venture-backed tech companies.
Perfect. And then what are the core offerings?
Yeah, so I have a few different programs. Overall, what I try to do is put together a few packages where one is the absolute most intensive. So if you're coming to me and everything's on fire, you think about managing a co-founder exit, you are maybe wanting to stress test the relationship to figure that out. I have a month intensive program that's for that crisis containment that I call stabilizer split. And so that's something that is 30 days. We're meeting 2 to 3 times a week, really intensive work, available ad hoc, kind of constantly on call. And so this is where teams are going to end up getting real-time crisis navigation. They're going to get support with how to manage the optics and communication internally and externally, and just a short-term plan to make sure there's alignment moving forward. And that's for a 9K retainer.
Okay.
Then if you need to step down, maybe you actually aren't, everything's not on fire, but you're still wanting to make rapid progress. That's kind of then my flagship program, which I call Reset and Rebuild. And so this is for teams who really are committed to growing personally and professionally, wanting to improve their alignment and communication. This is something that is every other week, 90 minutes. I can do 60 as well, but I prefer 90. It adds a little bit more depth and robustness. Again, kind of what we're really working to identify the different patterns that are keeping you stuck, and then debug those together. And that's at a 4K price point. And it is a 6-month commitment.
Cool.
I do have an in-person kind of accelerator program that I can throw together and meet you as a team and kind of do some of this work to jumpstart a new program. So that's an offering as well. And then if you're more so just on the preventative end and wanting to ensure optimal alignment, let's say that you're closing a fundraising round or about to start hypergrowth, then that's more of the sustain and scale type of model. And so that's a 2K monthly price point for kind of ongoing support in that manner. And I'll just add that all these packages include taking my co-founder satisfaction index. It's a proprietary measure I developed that gives me a high level overview of strengths and weaknesses in the partnership. That's a North Star metric. I want to meet with every team, have them saying, hey, Matt, we're 10 out of 10 today. We're absolutely fantastic. That way coaching is something that they want, not something that you need. And it also is really predicated on a model I developed in my book that was just published called the Co-Founder Conflict Navigation System. And so it's a step-by-step process where I will teach co-founding teams how to improve their communication, teamwork, and decision-making kind of point by point. And so it's something that I do customize to each person that I'm working with, but I do have a nice system there that people find beneficial.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for breaking that down in a eloquent manner. Where can people find the book? What's the name of the book? Walk me through that.
Yeah, the name of the book is called The Co-Founder Effect. So it's all about how to diagnose, fix, and scale healthy communication for startup success. You can find that on Amazon. And I also have a website, cofounderclarity.com. And so you can certainly check out, I have like a free excerpt there and additional tools available for download as well.
Awesome. Let's shift a little bit to the back end of the business because I have a lot of coaches and consultants listening to this. When it comes to customer acquisition, when you're looking to bring on more clients into your company, what are you doing from a lead generation and marketing front?
So lead generation and marketing, like many other coaches, is increasingly based on referrals. So a lot of people will find me through word of mouth, previous clients, etc. I also kind of somewhat unique to other coaches. I coming from the background in psychology, I didn't actually have much of an established network at all within kind of startup ecosystem. And so part of what I've been doing for years is I've been featured in a lot of different places and I write quite a bit. And so Google SEO also is quite helpful in that way.
Got it. What have you found to be the most effective in terms of getting more business?
I would say most effective are the referrals in that there's already a bit of trust built in. Because the thing that's unique about this space is most of the clients I work with are still actively building their companies. And so unfortunately, there's a bit of a negative perception by investors where if they were to see, hey, they're working with a co-founder coach, the investor might view that as a red flag instead of actually reducing existential risk to the company. And so a lot of them will leave anonymous testimonials, and the reason behind that is that they're afraid of
Interesting.
kind of that investor perception. And so because it's something that's still stigmatized, whenever I get that word of mouth referral, there's already inbuilt trust and there's an understanding like, oh, I'm not just some stranger on the internet. I can actually get you these
Yeah.
results.
No, that makes perfect sense. Something I always like to touch upon is the idea of building predictability when it comes to lead generation and client acquisition. I had a
Mhm.
gentleman on last week, and he was telling me referrals and word of mouth were his main revenue source. And he was expressing, he's like, listen, they're the highest intent leads, they're the highest like no trust factor. It's generally speaking the highest close rate if you know what you're doing on the sales side. But he also expressed like, hey, it's hard to rely on it because it's hard to pull a lever and get more referrals or more word of mouth leads.
Mhm.
You think about implementing predictability or different strategies that can yield to predictability, consistency with lead flow. What are your thoughts on that? What's your perspective on that specifically?
Completely agree. I think it really does depend on the business model. So I know a lot of what Cole talks about, and I think is one of the best in the world at is paid ads. And
Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I actually think that this is not the right vehicle for that. Something else that
Mm,
I'm building, I think, will be. For this type of business, the thing that I'm interested in, I'd be curious to hear your pushback on this, is I think doing, whether I kind of lean email, but I think other direct outreach, I actually think with this
yeah.
population could work well if I were able to get it right. But
Yeah.
that's what I've been thinking about most recently.
No, 100%. I think the general rule of thumb for us is if the TAM is 20K plus, then paid ads will definitely work with the right messaging, with the right hooks, all those different things. But if it's less, or if you're going for more of psychographic instead of a demographic, which just sounds like this is more psychographic instead of demographic, then cold outreach can be very, very effective. And we find email is great. LinkedIn also is very, very powerful. Something like a podcast strategy or something like that
Mm-hmm.
is very powerful. And I think doing a combination of the two. So there's this one tool that I actually just ran into a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, this is super interesting. It's called Lemlist. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. LEM
Gotcha.
list. But
Mm-hmm.
there's like the instant leads, there's the smart leads, where it's basically cold email sending platforms. Lemlist is that, but then inside of the platform, you can also target the same clients on LinkedIn and in various forms. So it's a multi-channel approach instead of just
Cool.
being a cold email software for the same pricing. You can get other aspects, and it's cool because you can send out voice notes through there. It's very 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 cool. It sounds like you're familiar with Cole. You're familiar with us. Have you worked with closers or not yet?
So I had a friend who was in the boardroom kind of mastermind or whatever, and so I have some familiarity that way. I actually just got the unlimited leads program, so I've been going through a lot of the sales
Nice.
training there and enjoying it.
That's awesome, man. I love that.
Yeah.
So I guess when you think of your vision and really where you want to take the company, what is the ultimate goal? I guess let's start off with the long-term vision and ultimately what you're looking to accomplish.
So whenever you say my business, my head goes a few different ways. So in terms
Mm,
of the individual coaching piece, I think that there's no reason that I can't be consistently to your point about like I think there's seasons with this. It would be nice to have systems in place to where that seasonality becomes a bit more consistent. And so that's certainly a goal is a little bit more stability and predictability. And I think around that 50K MRR would be fantastic. And then as I think about the broader vision, though, it goes beyond this particular company, and it goes a lot bigger. So I want to actually unite this field of co-founder coaches. I have fantastic colleagues who have different specializations under this one umbrella of this one niche. I think we all have fantastic, really unique perspectives on the work. And so I want to kind of work at a large level to get all the voices heard. And so this is a lot of writing books. This is a lot of training other coaches and training therapists to do this work. And so there's that kind of piece. And then I also want to do a little bit more diagnostic and predictive work, and ideally plug into universities as well to bring more awareness and insights into this space and into this relationship. So that's kind of the longest term vision. And so that's what I'm brick by brick moving towards. And I want this coaching business to be one branch that is stable and predictable that will allow me to continue doing that.
I love that. What advice, like if you could go back in time and talk to the younger version of yourself before you started this company, now with all of the things that you know today, what would you have told yourself about running a coaching company or a consulting company before you started?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think the fascinating thing about kind of the treadmill that I've been on and what I've been exposed to is back whenever I was really young, and actually in high school, I worked for a clinical psychologist, and this was my first exposure to psychology. And I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me I can study people and kind of patterns of what makes people tick. I can be my own boss. I can like, just have my own practice. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a dream job. That sounds fantastic. And so I would have been happy at that time if you told me, Matt, you'd make 125K a year. And now it's, that keeps moving up as I grow my own family and some of my lifestyle hopes and aspirations increase. And so part of what's really interesting is I would have said, Matt, like trust the process. And there was a fork in the road because I thought I was debating, do I do co-founder coaching or do I do help people hire more effectively at startups for this culture fit kind of angle? And ultimately this fork in the road, I said, okay, based on the data I'm seeing, I want to go co-founder. I do feel like it was the right choice. So it's something about trust your intuition and be open to continuing to grow. And I don't know. The other message is just keep pushing, which is something that I feel good about. Like I feel like I'm kind of hitting my flow there, even though it's slow. Like I said, it's brick by brick, but nonetheless, hopefully that makes a really strong foundation.
Yeah, I love that. I'm curious what the best piece of scaling advice you've received, either received, heard, or read. But yeah, what would you say the best piece of advice was?
I have a good one for you. So a colleague of mine, Jessica Lakely, is about to publish a book, and the thing that I found her perspective very unique on is knowing what type of business you're in and the business model, because there's a lot of different kind of shiny advice and so many different companies who want to help you grow, and some of them have the skills to do so, and others may not. But the thing is, it's almost like a casino, like an entrepreneurial casino. You walk in, this is her terminology. You walk in and there's all these bright shiny things saying, oh, we're going to take you to 100 100K MRR or whatever the case may be. And it sounds fantastic, but it might not apply to your business model and the type of business you're in.
Mm,
And so it's gotten me thinking far more about the vehicle itself, and then determining the means and what levers I want to pull. And so that's why I'm saying, direct outreach, cold outreach, I think actually it could be good for this one. But whereas the ads, I think there's some other products I have in mind where I think that's going to be far more effective. And
mm.
so I think I'm being a little bit more strategic with how I'm building and how I'm scaling.
What have you, what do you think those other products would be that would be effective with the ads?
More they lean more kind of SaaS inherently, so a bit more software and solving some
Nice.
of these problems in a different way, a novel way that the market
Yeah.
hasn't seen.
Yeah. Very cool. I would like just from our experience, I would if I were you, I would test out like $50 a day, something like that on ads, because you never know. You never know. At the end of the day, it's just hypotheses
Mhm.
and test them out and see where it goes. But what is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
Yeah, it's definitely through the website, cofounderclarity.com. You can also reach me at Matt at cofounderclarity.com, and would love to do a free session and see if I could provide some value.
Beautiful. Any final words before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the conversation.
Anytime. So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to reach out to Dr. Matthew, cofounderclarity.com. Get your free session with him, cofounderclarity.com. And if you're here, please subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we were able to go from zero to $30 million in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.